The in-depth dialogue continues on Closing Arguments with Stephen Skirka on News Talk 1010.
We're back. It's Marcy Siegel, and we're going to speak to Deepak Paradkar in a moment. Chris, I wanted you to pipe in on what we were talking about before, though.
It's very disturbing when the police start to toot their horn about their investigation and the fruits of that investigation. I think really now it's getting a little too in-depth, and it's harmful to fair trial issues. I mean, all the defense can do is initially, once you get to the bail hearing, at least you can get ban on publication of whatever facts are read in or allegations are read in the bail hearing. But the problem is before that. And then, of course, when you come to trial, there's a difficult and lengthy challenge for cause to ask people what they've heard about it, and everybody's heard about it. That's the problem.
Right.
And it just seems unnecessary. The police can say we made arrests, but we don't need them to open up their dossier on the case and spread it to the public.
And say stuff like they've been known to police. Why don't you just tell them they have a criminal record?
Yeah, sure. You know.
Why don't you just
and all the other things like, the death of his father, the death of his father, and the death of this woman, and somebody else who had a truck ad in the paper. I mean, come on, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Speaking of which, so the Millard case, it reminds me of some other high-profile cases, which I'm not going to mention, but clearly this has become at the forefront. And anytime these individuals are in court is an opportunity for the press to dig up more information, some of it very prejudicial. And what I see has happened is, more than any other case, is they're now going to the lawyer to ask any salacious details. Now, Deepak Paradkar, I've known for over 20 years. He is a high-profile, well-respected senior criminal lawyer who knows his stuff. He's been at every level of court, including the Supreme Court of Canada. There has been a lot of controversy already, starting with people going to see his client at the jail, which we'll talk about in a minute, to a full-page article on what he's like. Knowing Deepak as I do, he would never be one to talk to the press. However, this case screams out for him having to talk to the press. And what I find interesting is that there are some people, lawyers and non-lawyers, mostly lawyers, that are extremely critical of every word that he has said to the press and have picked out every word as if they would say it better. And that's why I want to have Deepak on here, because in my view, he has done an outstanding job so far at trying to keep the press at bay. And I guess sometimes they just need to have something. You can't avoid them. Deepak, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Thanks for having me.
So, I've already given sort of an introduction. Obviously, we've spoken before. A lot of the press that's come about has really been from them sort of contacting you obsessively to try to get some information. Is that fair?
That's fair. And historically, I haven't really, I have had a lot of high-profile cases, but I've never had to go defend a client in the media. And in this case, what I felt was when the police are painting my client in a certain fashion, mentioning obviously the Babcock case, his father's case, to me it's highly prejudicial. And if I have two options here. I can sit back and say nothing, in which case the public will say, well, the lawyer's not saying anything because obviously he must be guilty, or go and defend my client in the media as best I can. And a couple of things resonate with me. Some of the things that you said early on in the investigation, the officer in charge had essentially leaked certain details. For example, there was a third person, second vehicle. Now they're backing off from that. Early on, I got calls, well, they found more than one set of remains. And now they're like, oh, no, we just had one set of remains. And I'll tell you, their wording was very carefully chosen in finding the remains. If you go back and listen to what they say, based on the totality of the evidence, we believe it's plasma. I haven't seen any forensic evidence to confirm that. And if the police are wrong about that, that's a hugely prejudicial to my client. And, what I haven't seen recently, something like this where the police go on and basically leak their case, leak their investigation, little tidbits, like you said, salacious tidbits. I've got no option but to go on and say, hold on, let's not rush to judgment. There was that boat that was reported, while my client went on a sailing boat, and there was a girl that came on and a different girl came off, and there was blood. Well, that was investigated and found to be completely a non sequitur. So I find myself in this age of social media having to defend my client more so than ever.
It's almost as if you're being sidetracked continuously by the police in hopes that you will not be able to focus on the real allegations. But, that's just what it sounds like. Greg, you know, you have represented, you know, one of the senior executives of NORTEL and secured his acquittal. Deepak's in a difficult position dealing with such a high-profile cases such as this. You know, he makes a good point. Do you speak to them or not speak to him? What are your thoughts?
Well, my view is that he has to speak to him. He has to choose his words carefully, but he can't permit a situation to exist where it's effectively one-sided and that there isn't a voice there that's speaking in an appropriate way on behalf of his client and making it clear in even as little as 2 or 3 sentences that his client is going to be pleading not guilty and has a right to a fair trial, and that this is simply the police view of the events, and that his view of events is going to unfold in the courtroom when the trial arrives, and that everybody should be patient and wait for that.
Chris, isn't that where the trial should be, in the courtroom?
Yes, not in the media. And what can you say? I mean, you have to be very careful about what you say. You don't want to reveal things you shouldn't reveal. The client has told you, but you want to say, listen, there's a presumption of innocence here, and there are 2 sides of the story. So if everybody could just be patient, and things will evolve, and you will see a different scenario than that, which is alleged now.
All right. Well, Deepak, thanks for joining us. I know you're busy with your family, and thank you for the time. And he's exceptionally well represented, and I wish you luck. It's time for a break, and we'll be back.